On January the 31st, 2003, Blair, still hopeful, went to Washington for the third of his key pre-war meetings with Bush. It was clear a second, less ambiguous UN resolution would be needed. But Bush had already penciled in March the 10th as the start date for military action, just 6 weeks away. By now, even Blair's ally, Colin Powell, was wearying of the UN route.
Colin Powell said, Blair's the one who wanted the second resolution, and he alone. No one else in the US government wanted it. I certainly didn't want it.
Yes, there was big resistance to that. I mean, there was a certain amount of resistance to the November resolution. There was big resistance to a second resolution. But, you know, I mean, rather contrary to what people sometimes say about this, I mean, I was very insistent with the president that we had to try for it. And in the end, he was prepared to try for it.
Yeah, but he did it to oblige you.
Yes, I think he did.
I can remember him asking me to make phone calls, which I did, but it was all in an effort to help our friends and allies be in a better position to eventually accomplish a mission that we all had come to the conclusion that needed to be done.
On February the 15th, more than 1 million people marched through the streets of London in opposition to the war. But in Iraq, there were still no signs of weapons of mass destruction. On February the 20th, Hans Blix picked up the phone to Tony Blair.
I said to him that we were not impressed with intelligence. And I also said explicitly to him that it would be paradoxical if you were to invade Iraq with 250,000 people and find very little.
I do recall the conversation, and you know, one of the things that you know, I have to say is that when I was talking to Hans Blix through this period, I was saying to him, look, you've got to take these people out of the country and interview them, the scientists and the engineers. He was very clear that it was difficult to do that because these people might be killed. And I said to him, well, that, you know, is an indication of what we're dealing with then. So, and he was also very clear that he believed that in any event, it was important to avoid conflict. And I used to keep saying to him, look, that isn't, you know, your job is just to tell us the facts.
As he wrestled with the dilemmas facing him, Blair confided in an old friend.
He was trying to be faithful to this transatlantic relationships, be faithful to the transcontinental relationships. He wanted to keep his European work together, and he wanted the NATO allies to stay together, all of us. It became obvious that the Bush people had decided they just wanted to go, and they didn't care whether the weapons were there or not, or they didn't care anything they did. They wanted to do this war.
The Kosovo strategy of a united international front was unraveling. Blair's gamble had failed. Even he couldn't bridge the transatlantic gulf this time.
To be absolutely frank about it, at that time, coming into February, early March 2003, I mean, truthfully, I was in a position which didn't really have a constituency anymore. You know, the American system was, in my view, totally understandably wanting to move this thing forward. And I think for the countries on the other side, they decided, now this is, we're going to draw the line in the sand here.
I do have some sympathy, but did Britain have to be in that position? Is the North Atlantic relationship so powerful, so existential, that it trumps all things? That's the question.
On March the 10th, President Chirac appeared on French television, stating his opposition to a second resolution.
France will vote no, because it considers tonight that there is no need for war to achieve what we all want, the disarmament of Iraq.
It was a fatal blow to Britain's hopes of a second resolution, but also an opportunity. Chirac's words were ambiguous, but he was now blamed for killing the UN process.
Do you feel that the military necessities timescale began to override what were still possibilities in the diplomatic timescale?
Well, I think this is the true position, that once you get into a situation where your troops are down there and where there's tremendous propulsion towards military action, it requires something fairly significant in order to shove that back and break it and delay it. I think if we got a second resolution, you would have opened up that whole possibility, but you were never realistically going to get that.
The American military timetable had reached 0 hour, and Blair faced a vote in Parliament. There was a real danger he could be forced from power. President Bush picked up the phone.
I said, rather than lose your government, be passive. You know, we'll go without you if need be, because I don't want you to lose your government.
He was always very cognizant of the difficulty I had. He was, as he used to say, determined that we shouldn't end up with the regime change being in Britain. He was saying to me, look, I understand this is very difficult, and, you know, America can do this militarily on its own, and if you want to stick out of it, stick out of it. And I was equally emphatic that we shouldn't do that.
There were plenty of people around you saying, look, Prime Minister, you don't have to do this. So why didn't you accept his offer?
Because I think it was important then, and it's important now, that we stick with America in this, that we don't have them try to do it on their own. I think this is the most fundamental struggle of our time, and there is only one place to be, which is in the thick of it and trying to sort it out. And, you know, yeah, of course we can get out. We can be a medium-sized country that sort of hides itself away at the back and doesn't push itself forward and says to America, well, if you really think there's a problem, you go and sort it out. That's not what I want for my country. It's not what I believe the world should be like.
Saddam was defeated in just 3 weeks. But Blair's goal of an international community united to reshape the world following 9/11 was further away than ever. And it quickly became clear that the major justification for the war did not exist. There were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
Do you think that there was a good argument for you to have resigned when WMD was not discovered?
I think if there'd been any case of us doctoring the evidence or interfering with them, that's why we established the Hutton inquiry, which after all was a 6-month inquiry in which, in front of a law lord, and I think it's the first time a Prime Minister, the heads of the security services and people have ever given as extensive evidence of that. And I believe very strongly that had I walked away in 2003, it would have been the wrong thing to have done, because I would then not have been in a position where I could continue to oversee what I believed and believe still was a major and fundamental struggle.
But did you think about it?
No, I didn't think about it, actually.
Soon, the situation on the ground in Iraq was spiraling out of control. Jeremy Greenstock was sent out as British envoy in September 2003 and found the American operation chaotic.
Hey, watch your goddamn fire!
What people absolutely love to do is to say, well, it was because of a mistake in the planning. No one planned for the aftermath and all the rest of it. It's not really right. Actually, what has happened fundamentally is that the people that we're fighting have decided to fight back. And the nature of the struggle that's been going on since September the 11th, but actually before then as well, has now expressed itself in what is happening in Iraq.
4,000 American dead, 150 British dead, 75,000 Iraqi dead by the most conservative estimate, more than 3 million refugees. Have you had moments of doubt and anguish as you've seen that?
I think if you didn't have moments of doubt and anguish over what has happened, then there's something pretty profoundly wrong with you.
What about you?
Yeah, with me, if I didn't. Or an acute sense of responsibility, which I have, and I have every day and will have for the rest of my life, every day. But I can't say what I don't really believe about this. And what I believe in the end is that this is, whatever it began as, it is part of this wider struggle today. And if there's anything I regret about this period, it is I regret not having laid out for people in a clearer way what I saw as the profound nature of this struggle and the fact that it was going to go on for a generation.
It's a hard war. It's not only hard to remove a thug that was a murderer that had at least the knowledge to make weapons of mass destruction, but it's hard to replace a tyranny with a new democracy. But we came to the conclusion it was necessary work for future generations. We're willing to do the hard work now so that a part of the Middle East that has produced killers will change.
It was a missed opportunity, a historical mistake. We'll pay all together, whether we were in favor or opposing the waging war in Iraq, we'll pay a very high price for that, all together.
I don't believe that what is happening in Iraq today is anything other than an absolutely visceral, profound struggle between what is right and what is wrong.
In Chicago, Tony Blair had outlined a vision of a better world in which powerful nations intervened to root out brutality and injustice. After 9/11, this vision became inextricably linked to the American War on Terror. And Blair's goal of an international community united for freedom and justice narrowed to an alliance with George W. Bush.
We've written the first chapter in what is a long ideological struggle. The forces of good and moderation and human rights and justice versus forces that are evil, that'll kill. I'm confident I will look back when I'm even older guy than I am today and say, what an amazing relationship I had.
I haven't changed since that Chicago speech. But the whole point about struggles of fundamental nature is that they're really, really difficult. The whole point about alliances is that they're not forged when things are easy.
Blair's fear now is that his successors lack his burning sense of moral certainty and determination to stay the course.
The enemy that we're fighting, I'm afraid, I think has learned that our stomach for this fight is limited. And I think they believe that they can wait us out. Our determination's got to match theirs, and our will's got to be stronger than theirs. And at the moment, I think, it's probably not.